There is a silence that precedes revelation, an inner stillness that hums beneath the clamor of progress and technology. It is the pause before lightning strikes the mountain, the hush before the curtain of illusion is pulled back to reveal the machinery of spirit, quietly spinning behind the gears of industry and ambition. We live in an era where names become symbols, where the flesh and blood individuals behind monumental achievements blur into archetypes, echoes of something older, more cosmic. And among these names, few shimmer with such electric paradox as Elon Musk, a man simultaneously worshipped and criticized, adored and misunderstood, hailed as a prophet of progress and a harbinger of unchecked innovation. But beyond the headlines and beyond the dust clouds of Mars-bound rockets lies a deeper question, one rarely spoken aloud, but deeply felt by those attuned to the subtler currents of meaning. Who is Elon Musk in the spiritual realm? To ask such a question is not to idolize, nor to reduce, but to reframe. It is not to pry into his private beliefs or speculate about his soul, but rather to recognize that every life echoes through unseen corridors, casting reflections into dimensions we cannot measure with machines or monetize with stock markets. To explore Musk's spiritual blueprint is to lift our gaze from the circuitry of this world to the sacred geometry behind it, to see whether, behind the wires and Wi-Fi, the rocket fuel and algorithms, there lies the fingerprint of a more ancient pattern. Imagine the world not as a random landscape of flesh and finance, but as a spiritual organism, alive, breathing, dreaming. In this view, people are not just people, they are emissaries of purpose, vessels of archetypal energy, wearing human masks as they perform roles in an unfolding cosmic theater. Some play quietly, their lines whispered. Others step boldly into the spotlight, their scripts laced with fire and paradox. Elon Musk, with his enigmatic presence and almost mythic ambition, may be one of these, a figure not merely of science but of spirit, whose mission on Earth may extend far beyond Tesla, Twitter, or Martian settlements. This inquiry is not meant to be biographical. It is not tethered to timelines or company valuations. It is a spiritual cartography, a map drawn in symbols and signs, in synchronicities and strange dreams, in the archetypal language of the soul. We are not looking at Elon Musk the man, but Elon Musk the metaphor. His life is a portal, a cipher, a mirror that reflects aspects of our collective journey. What does he represent within the spiritual evolution of humanity? What currents run beneath his disruptive innovations? And why do they strike chords of both awe and unease within the human psyche? Is he a Prometheus, stealing fire for the future? An alchemist, transforming the base elements of industry into starbound visions? Or is he a mirror of the modern ego, dressed in spacesuits and neural nets? In order to trace this blueprint, we must first understand that a spiritual blueprint is not a fixed chart, like an astrological wheel or DNA strand. It is more like a resonance, an energetic signature that harmonizes with certain frequencies of meaning, purpose, and spiritual architecture. These blueprints are felt more than seen, known more than understood. They manifest as themes that repeat across lifetimes and lineages, as archetypal patterns that ripple outward into society, influencing not just what a person does, but how the world changes around them because they exist. For Elon Musk, the clues to this blueprint shimmer not only in his ventures, but in the way he polarizes, inspires, and disturbs. The spiritual realm speaks in paradox, and Musk is a paradox incarnate, a futurist reaching into ancient dreams, a billionaire who speaks of collapsing civilizations, a technologist whispering in mythic tones about interplanetary escape. His blueprint may well be written in the stars, but it's etched too into the neural pathways of a species that has forgotten how to dream with both eyes open. And so we begin this exploration not with answers, but with open hands and wondering hearts. The journey we are about to take is not linear, for spirit moves in spirals. We will wind through layers of myth and modernity, decode symbols hidden in plain sight, and trace Musk's spiritual resonance across metaphysical landscapes, that transcend biographical fact. This is a sacred investigation, not of a man, but of a mirror held up to our species at a crossroads of consciousness and code. To discover Elon Musk's spiritual blueprint is, in a sense, to discover our own. For he is not a solitary icon, but a node in a vast spiritual network, reflecting the tensions and aspirations of an entire era. Through him, we may glimpse our own shadow, our own divine longing, our own impulse to ascend, and our fear of falling. To understand the spiritual blueprint behind Elon Musk is to step into a liminal space, one that bridges the rational with the transcendent, the known with the unknown. Here, time no longer moves in a straight line, and identities are less nouns than verbs. Musk, in this light, becomes less a man and more a manifestation, a crystallization of energy flowing from some deeper archetypal spring. He is an emissary of disruption, yes, but also of initiation. And this initiation speaks in symbols: fire, stars, metal, silence. At the heart of this spiritual decoding is a cluster of themes, threads that do not lie still, but ripple and morph like living filaments of meaning. To touch them is to feel the pulse of something older than logic, more primal than any algorithm. The first of these is the longing for escape, which might appear on the surface as Musk's obsession with Mars, with colonizing other worlds. But underneath, it is a metaphysical hunger, the soul's yearning for transcendence, for some Eden lost and not yet found. He is not simply launching rockets. He is reaching, with the trembling hands of the collective unconscious, toward the edge of known existence. The question is not whether we can escape Earth, but whether we can escape the gravity of our own unawakened nature. This longing for transcendence bleeds into the second great theme, disruption as spiritual evolution. In most traditions, true transformation does not come through comfort or consensus. It arrives like lightning through the tower, like the shattering of a false idol. Musk embodies this archetypal current, consciously or not. His presence, whether in automotive, aerospace, or digital communication, functions as a wedge, splitting apart the old paradigms to make way for the unknown. In spiritual terms, he is not just an innovator, but a catalyzing force, activating latent potentials in the collective psyche. Every controversy, every provocation, every meme-laced message becomes, in this light, a kind of spiritual shock therapy, jarring us awake from our slumber. Another theme dances through the circuitry of his life, the merging of machine and spirit. Transhumanist technologist, neural integrator, Musk stands at the fault line between biology and circuitry. But beneath the debates about AI and brain chips lies a deeper spiritual question. Are we attempting to become gods through code, or remembering that we always were? The fusion of mind and machine is not just a technological leap. It is a symbolic reenactment of the age-old mystical union between matter and spirit. Musk is not creating new tools. He is reenacting ancient myths with silicon and satellites, reanimating the myth of the demiurge, the technomancer, the divine tinkerer. Yet these themes do not float freely. They are tethered to a spiritual law. Every act of creation is also an act of reflection. What Musk builds in the outer world mirrors what humanity struggles with in its inner world. The chaos of Twitter becomes an allegory for our fragmented minds. The sleek silence of a Tesla becomes a metaphor for our desire to purify motion, to glide without friction through the dense terrain of modernity. Starlink, with its mesh of satellites cradling the Earth, becomes a luminous net, not just of internet access, but of energetic connectivity, as if we're slowly weaving a planetary crown chakra, and there is more still. Hovering above these threads is a pattern of polarization, the way Musk simultaneously repels and magnetizes, drawing fanatic loyalty and searing criticism in equal measure. In spiritual language, this polarization is the sign of a threshold guardian, a figure who challenges the initiate to choose their path. He appears not as a moral example, but as a mirror magnifier, reflecting both light and shadow, back to those who gaze too long. Those who love him may see their own thirst for breakthrough, Those who hate him may encounter their own rejected ambitions. In either case, the energy is catalytic, intense, raw. This polarization feeds into the final theme, the illusion of identity. Elon Musk, as a construct, as a mythologized figure, blurs the boundaries between the real and the archetypal. His image is shaped not only by his actions, but by the psychic projections of a world starved for messiahs, anti-heroes, and future builders. This is spiritual territory. When a person becomes more symbol than self, they enter the mythic register. Musk may or may not be consciously playing this role, but the role plays through him nonetheless. In this sense, he is no longer just Elon Musk. He is a living sigil etched into the collective dreamscape, pointing towards something beyond personality or profit. To speak of a spiritual blueprint is to speak in riddles that shimmer just beyond the edge of comprehension. It is to accept that meaning does not always come in sentences, but in silence between them. Musk's life and work, when viewed through the lens of the spiritual, reveal not a linear story, but a mandala of contradictions, each petal unfolding toward some deeper truth about where we come from and where we are going. His role, whether angel or antagonist, messiah or mirror, is not to answer, but to activate. His presence disrupts. His vision distorts. His blueprint reveals us to ourselves. Beyond the themes lies the story, not the story we are told by news outlets or trending hashtags, but the hidden myth, the dream behind the data. Human beings are storytellers because existence itself is storied. And in the mythic marrow of every public figure who disturbs the equilibrium, there pulses an archetypal force, one that unfolds like a cosmic drama. When we seek to understand Elon Musk in the spiritual realm, we are not decoding a man, but listening for a myth speaking through him. He becomes the protagonist in a symbolic tale, much older than SpaceX or Tesla, a tale etched into the bones of civilizations that rose and fell long before satellites dotted the sky. Picture this: a realm suspended between stars and stone, a world not quite Earth and not quite heaven. This is the realm of the arch-engineer, a figure born not from womb, but from will, summoned by the collective desire of a dying world for new vision. The arch-engineer is the one who climbs the sacred mountain, not with chants and robes, but with wires in his hands and fire in his eyes. His altar is the launch pad. His incantation is code. He is not the priest of the old temples, but the forger of new skies. He does not speak of salvation through penance, but through propulsion. This is the archetype Musk channels, the firebringer of the machine age, like Prometheus before him, who stole fire from the gods and suffered for it. This modern firebringer pulls not flame, but electricity, artificial intelligence, and spacefaring vision from the vaults of potentiality and hands it to humanity, raw and glowing. But the punishment is different now. No vultures tear at the liver. Rather, it is public opinion, relentless and cyclical, that pecks at his persona. He is glorified, then condemned, then lifted again in an endless oscillation between mythic praise and mythic punishment. But his narrative does not end there. There is another symbolic layer, the cosmic bridge builder, the one who dares to stitch the earth to the stars, not just with rockets, but with idea-threaded intention. In ancient myths, this figure is the axis mundi, the world tree, the spine between dimensions. In modern form, Musk plays this role each time he seeks to connect opposites, matter and meaning, Earth and Mars, biology and AI, tradition and innovation. He is building not just physical bridges, but symbolic ones, connecting the outer expansion of civilization with the inner expansion of human capacity. The launch pad becomes the new monolith. The neural chip becomes the oracle stone, held not in caves, but in labs. Still deeper is the tale of the uncrowned king, the ruler who refuses the throne. Musk, despite his global influence, sidesteps traditional political or religious power. He wears no crown, claims no moral high ground. In the language of ancient myth, this is a trickster move, a refusal of archetypal gravity. It is the paradox of power without possession, influence without anchoring. He embodies the tension between chaos and control, between vision and volatility. In this sense, he aligns with the Mercury Hermes archetype, fast, fluid, boundary crossing. The messenger god of technology, who dances between realms and delivers messages too complex for the slow language of form. Then, there is the most haunting of Musk's symbolic roles, the wanderer of worlds. In the quiet, echoing spaces behind his ambition to colonize Mars, we hear a more ancient echo, the exile from Eden. It is a tale not of triumph, but of a soul haunted by a world it can no longer fix, a reality it seeks to transcend. Musk's drive to escape Earth is not merely scientific, it is metaphysical. The wanderer archetype walks between ruins and stars, driven by a homesickness for a place that may never have existed. This is the spiritual exile who tries to build heaven from metal, because no heaven has yet appeared in spirit. And in doing so, he forces us to ask, are we truly advancing, or are we fleeing from the mess we've made? All these symbols converge into a singular realization. Elon Musk, in the mythic realm, is not a character to emulate or judge, but a mirror to decipher. His story is not told to validate his actions, but to illuminate our own trajectory as a species. He becomes a myth not because of who he is, but because of what we project onto him, our hopes for salvation through science, our dread of being left behind, our fantasies of limitless growth wrapped in the digital robes of progress. He is, in essence, a modern glyph, a living hieroglyphic scrolled across the tablet of human evolution. And so we see that to examine Musk through this symbolic lens is to peer into the deeper questions that haunt our age. Can machines carry the soul? Can we ascend without first healing what lies below? Can a species obsessed with outward movement ever turn inward enough to evolve? These are not questions with quick answers. They are koans meant to awaken the latent philosopher inside each observer. Elon Musk, as symbol, awakens that dormant part of us that still believes in the possibility of metamorphosis, not just of tech, but of consciousness. A myth, no matter how radiant or ancient, is meaningless unless it touches Earth. The spiritual realm may weave with golden threads, but unless those threads are stitched into our daily lives, they unravel like dreams upon waking. So, what do we do with the symbolic blueprint of Elon Musk? How does one integrate such an archetypal storm of ideas into the terrain of bills and boundaries, commutes and conversations? It begins, paradoxically, not with action, but with perception, with the willingness to see differently. When we strip away the headlines, the financial forecasts, the memes, and the controversies, we are left with something more essential, a model of transformation through chaos. In this model, the sacred does not look sacred. It is hidden in laboratories, launch pads, and late-night tweets. Yet the energy behind it, the force that pulses through Musk's unrelenting motion, is a force we all have access to. It is the energy of becoming, of reshaping, of leaning into uncertainty with wild, sacred trust. Musk's spiritual blueprint is not a one-off. It is a prototype. It whispers, "You too are here to build something the world has never seen." This is not about launching companies or rockets. It is about launching realities. And that begins with daring to question the existing one. Musk's presence on the world stage is a continual act of interrogation. What systems have we accepted as immutable? What boundaries have we drawn around our potential? Spiritually, these are the same questions mystics have asked for millennia, cloaked now in the modern language of disruption. What was once the monk meditating under a tree is now the technologist refusing the status quo. Both are spiritual acts of defiance, against entropy, against limitation, against sleep. We see this spiritual defiance play out in tangible, practical ways. Musk's blueprint models how discomfort is a path, not an obstacle. He courts risk, not recklessly, but because he intuits that comfort calcifies growth. On a personal level, this challenges us to examine our own resistance to the unknown. Are we building our lives around safety or significance? Are we investing in stability or evolution? The blueprint teaches us to lean into creative chaos, to trust the strange winds of innovation, not only in business, but in relationships, in healing, in identity. Then there is the lesson of embodiment. Despite his celestial aspirations, Musk is not ascetic. He lives, eats, tweets, argues. This groundedness is part of the spiritual message. The blueprint does not ask us to transcend the body or abandon the world. It asks us to transform it, to spiritualize the material. Musk's ventures, at their core, are about altering the texture of the tangible, making cars electric, energy renewable, internet planetary. The spiritual parallel is about transforming the stuff of your life, your job, your habits, your relationships, into vessels for the divine. It is not about escape, but elevation. And yet, even this elevation carries a shadow. For every visionary blueprint, there lurks the danger of obsession, of imbalance. Musk's spiritual narrative warns us, too, of the cost of untempered vision. Burnout, detachment, emotional dissonance. These are not footnotes, but features of the mythic journey. The practical wisdom here is clear. Your mission cannot eclipse your soul. There must be integration, not just ignition. You cannot save the world if you lose your inner world in the process. This brings us to the communal echo of the blueprint. Musk does not operate in a vacuum. His work, whether praised or condemned, ripples across global conversations about sustainability, consciousness, and the future. He teaches by example the inevitability of impact. Spiritually, this calls us to own our own ripple. What we build, emotionally, energetically, creatively, will shape more than we know. You do not need a company to be a creator. Your kindness can be an innovation. Your integrity, a form of disruption. Your truth, a light that redraws the grid of someone else's reality. The blueprint is also a call to stewardship. Musk's spiritual narrative reminds us that technology is not inherently sacred or profane. It is the intention behind it that determines its trajectory. The same applies to every tool we hold: our words, our influence, our decisions. The question is not just what you're building, but why and what part of your being it is feeding. Musk's attempts to democratize space, to link neural patterns to machines, to redefine freedom of speech, all speak to a deeper wrestling with how we evolve and for whom. We are challenged, then, to be stewards of our own creative power. Are we inventing out of fear or out of love? Out of ego or out of service? Finally, the blueprint insists on scale. Musk operates at planetary levels, but so can we. Not in the sense of enterprise, but in the sense of vision. Spiritually, we are not meant to play small. Our thoughts can span galaxies. Our love can defy entropy. The mythic Musk reminds us that we are, each of us, nodes of extraordinary capacity, capable of bending reality through faith, focus, and form. To live in the spirit of this blueprint is not to become Elon Musk. It is to recognize the Musk within, the builder, the breaker, the visionary, the exile, the infinite child who still believes the stars are within reach. We have wandered far through this unfolding spiritual terrain. From the ethereal whispers of symbolic archetypes to the steel and flame of earthly innovation, we've traversed the blueprint that Elon Musk sketches, perhaps unwittingly, across the scroll of human awakening. But now, as the spiral draws inward, we are not simply left with insights about a man or a myth. We are left facing ourselves. The spiritual blueprint we've traced is not just Musk's, it is ours. It exists not as a static chart to admire, but as a living scroll, unrolling beneath our feet with every conscious step we take. Musk may serve as the symbol, the magnifier, the mirror, but the real journey, the deeper decoding, leads inward. And if there is one sacred whisper that echoes through his mythic presence, it is this: you are here to build something only you can build. We are all architects of invisible realities. Some build rockets, others build relationships. Some launch companies, others launch forgiveness. Some connect neurons to machines, while others connect hearts across lifetimes. In a cosmos that writes itself anew with every breath, every soul is a blueprint. a unique frequency of divine purpose encoded not in code or circuitry, but in story, struggle, and sacred becoming. Musk's symbolic role stirs something primal because it activates a dormant memory in the collective psyche, the memory that we are not merely passengers on Earth, but co-creators of its destiny. In every civilization's twilight, there are those who rise as initiators of the next epoch. Not all wear robes or hold staffs. Some wear hoodies, speak in riddles on social media, and dream of crimson deserts beneath Martian suns. What matters is not the costume, but the current they channel. And the current always flows toward evolution. Sometimes painful, sometimes chaotic, always transformational. So where does that leave you? It leaves you at a threshold, not of opinion or admiration, but of inner ignition. You are invited by this exploration, by the very spiritual law Musk's life illustrates, to step fully into the architecture of your own becoming, not in imitation, but in alignment. For the blueprint is not a design to copy, but a pattern to awaken. In Musk, the firebringer, you see your own spark. In the wanderer of worlds, your own longing for home. In the arch-engineer, your own power to forge reality from the raw ore of imagination. This is your call, not to watch but to build, not to debate but to dream with action. You are not small, you are a portal. Within your ordinary life hums a great cosmic riddle, waiting to be lived into. Your relationships, your work, your art, your silence, these are all instruments. Will you play them with divine intention, or let them rust in the background noise of distraction? The mythic frame we placed around Musk is a tool, a symbolic telescope, allowing us to see not just further into the stars, but deeper into the soul. It teaches us that spiritual awakening is not confined to temples or texts. It may arrive through circuit boards, through risk, through failure, through vision that defies reason. And now you hold the key. To discover your own spiritual blueprint is to become conscious of what you already are, a vessel of divine intelligence, uniquely configured to serve, to transform, to co-create. Elon Musk, in all his contradiction and controversy, becomes a cosmic prompt, a living oracle disguised in the garb of a disruptor. He awakens discomfort because he disrupts sleep. He ignites awe because he stirs memory. Not memory of who he is, but memory of who you are. This is the moment to choose, not between technologies, but between paradigms, between a life of passive existence and a life of conscious authorship. The stars await your story, not just in the sky, but in the mirror, in your morning breath, in the questions you dare to ask when no one else is watching. So take this blueprint, not as scripture, but as spark. Use it not to worship, but to wonder, not to mimic, but to manifest. The spiritual realm is not elsewhere. It is here, in your fingertips, in your timeline, in your voice. You are the Musk of your own myth. And this moment, this very breath, is your launch pad.